All right, guys, what's up? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. So it's been quite a while since I made any content, and it's been quite a while since I played Splitgate 2. So from the outside looking in, it's really easy to pretty much, especially since it kind of makes sense in a way for people to assume that, oh, it just makes all the sense in the world. Jack pretty much abandoned the game. He no longer has interest in it. The views are down, the player count is really low, etc., etc., etc. And at the same time, I haven't really been making content on it. So, first of all, no, I actually have not lost any interest in Splitgate 2. It just so happens that I'm going through some personal things right now, which I really don't want to go into too much detail about because you guys are not here for that. But I can assure you, I have not lost interest in the game. And on top of that, I haven't been making content on Splitgate 2 specifically on at least a consistent basis since the time I put the game down, simply because of the fact that to me, it's almost like, well, there's two reasons actually. Reason number one, first and foremost, is that it's kind of, for me personally, it's kind of a little bit torturous. It's kind of like waving, a pizza at me, right? And I love pizza, so like for me, like I would want it. I'd want to tear it apart. I want to eat it, right? And you're just waving it at me, but I can't have it, or I shouldn't have it, right? So, in terms of at least right now, so I do keep my ear to the ground. I watch content or listen to content like some J-Bo-N-Men videos, like for instance, or something like that. And or whenever the devs have an update, I'll take a listen or I'll watch into that. But for the most part, I've kind of been uh, staying away, but at the same time being within distance, so to speak, right? So now I also want to get into why my interest hasn't wavered, despite the fact that I haven't played the game in over 2 weeks since the last play test, the one that they did on Steam, and not making content on it and all the things that I mentioned previously. It's like, how in the world, Jack? How is it in the world that your interest is still maintaining? Well, it's very simple. One of the biggest reasons is because of the dev team. The dev team is literally a team that's trying to make a community focused game, regardless of whatever part of the community you are. Whether you're one of the people that stuck around with Splitgate 2 ever since the beginning, or even since Splitgate 1 ever since the beginning, or whether you're a player who did play Splitgate 2 but put it down or whatnot, or whether you're somebody who can potentially become a new player in the future, right? So these guys they have this absolutely difficult endeavor to try to fulfill, and that is that you want to try to appease as many people as possible, right? And how do you do that when you've got a dedicated audience that's like, your hardcore audience, and then of course you've got the other ones that are going to be either hopefully coming back. At least a percentage of those people are going to be coming back when the relaunch happens. And of course, how do you get new people and how do you keep them, right? Or at least most of them, right? So these are these are just a few of the things that the devs have to deal with. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It really was the best move that they could possibly do in order for them to go, for them to go back into beta in order to maximize the chance of this happening. Now, a lot of people out there, both in and out of content creation, right, have made videos, talking about how the game is dead. It's going back into beta, so therefore it's dead. You don't see things happen like this. The game is dead. The viewer count is down. The player count is down. Twitch numbers suck, etc., etc. But for me personally, number one, it's not dead because of the fact that it's still getting developer support, and on top of that, it just so happens to be that very rare type of instance to where the people that are making the game, number one, communicate and care about their community, right? And number two, they don't have big time publishers, or should I say, big time people in suits telling them what to do. These guys took investments, smaller investments from other places, but they still maintain 100% control of what they do with their game, which is a great thing. You've got gamers who know the first person shooter genre and developers that know the first person shooter genre and have played the first person shooter genre and have developed other first person shooters as well that are working on this game, right? You can't ask for anything better, especially in the year 2025 when you've got, games out there for a certain genre being developed by people who are not familiar with that genre, right? So they're kind of quote unquote learning as they go along, right? But at the same time, even then, their viewpoint could be kind of really fogged from what it really is like to be a true fan of the series. And Splitgate 2 has no problem like that, right? Splitgate 2 has other things that they have to deal with, and they're doing their best. And at the end of the day, what more can you ask from a developer, right? Like literally, what more can you ask? And in the year 2025, when people want things now, and all that kind of stuff, it is what it is. And at the same time, as far as content creation is concerned, even for my channel, I remember making one video talking about something I don't know, like I don't remember what the title was it is Splitgate dying, is, you know, something along those lines or something like that. And sadly but truly, it was one of, if not my most popular Splitgate 2 video. Go figure. So negativity or anything towards the negativity or anything dramatic or anything like that, it really draws attention. It really does. But 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 the reality is, until the game stops getting developer support, until a sunset is until or if a sunset is announced, or until or if the game stops getting developer support and all that kind of stuff, that is when you can say the game is dead. Sure, the numbers are down in terms of popularity and in terms of the amount of players playing overall compared to where the game should be. Absolutely, yeah. But does that mean the game is dead? No. The game is still out there for people to play in beta form, you know, which I appreciate personally, because they could have actually, it's costing them money and they're not really making any money right now because of, you know, them going back to beta and all that kind of stuff. So to my knowledge, at least, they're not making money. So, you know, the servers are still up, you know, the deadies are still up for us to play with and stuff like that. It's not like we went to peer-to-peer servers, you know, while they prepare for relaunch or anything like that. They're keeping the lights on, so to speak, and for the players that absolutely love and support the game to keep playing. So for me personally, even though I haven't played for a few weeks now, I personally appreciate that. You know, you don't really see, you know, too many devs doing that. You know, I mean, I don't know if that's because they've already paid for the servers months and months ahead of time. I'm not sure. But regardless of which, the reality is that we still have access to the game to play. We, you know, they're taking feedback from everywhere they can get it. And for me personally, I'm appreciative of that. So that right there, all that to me says that there's potential for the future of this game, as well as the fact that the game itself also has, you know, a hell of a foundation as far as gameplay is concerned. You know, when the game is playing, like luckily for me, you know, 95% of the time or so, the game has been playing, you know, very smooth for me, right? And I play on PC, I play on Steam, and for me, 95% of the time, the game is played smoothly. I mean, I only play Arena. I haven't played Battle Royale. I don't play Onslaught. I just play Arena. That's what I play. And 95% of the time, it's been a really good experience for me. The hit detection overall is solid. The movement is solid. You know, the gunplay is solid. It's very addictive. It's fast paced. The maps are solid. I like the way the guns feel, et cetera, et cetera. Like, the game has everything from a gameplay foundational standpoint in order for it to reach its goals. However, even in the year 2025, you got people my age, which is almost 41, by the way. You got people my age that have become, that even we have become accustomed to. Again, to a certain degree, this is even true for me, but it's not as much as it is for other people, I guess. But you know, for me, good gameplay, good and addictive gameplay is enough to keep me coming back time and time again, right? So now, even for people around my age, and especially for those who came after me, you know, they've obviously become accustomed to the fact that the game needs certain features, and there are certain bells and whistles that every single first-person shooter, whether it's free to play or not, that needs to be in the game. So those things are important, especially in the year 2025, and it's become standard, right? And again, this is another reason why the devs went back into beta. They need to be able to put all that content in, and they also need to have the biggest impact as possible when they relaunch, right? It just makes all the sense in the world, especially since there were so many different games that were, so many different features that needed to be there that weren't, and stuff like that, and that are important, and as well as optimization for the game. So, but I truly believe that this relaunch is not just going to be something that to where they announce that they're out of beta and here's the relaunch. There you go. I don't think it's just going to be Splitgate 2 in terms of what we got previously, and then it's just fixed and the way it should have been done since the game launched beforehand, like since the original game launch of the game, right? I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we're going to get a significant amount more maps. I think, you know, obviously the game plays, you know, you're probably going to have a map picker or a filter of some kind. We're obviously going to have more weapons, and the game modes are going to be a lot more at home, and there's going to be some changes to the portals and how those work and stuff like that, because that's constantly what they're working on. If they announce themselves that they're working on something, or they're going to at least experiment with something, you can damn well bet that you're going to expect a change, right? Because again, as described previously, this is not, even though it's a smaller dev team than some of the bigger AAA titles out there, you know, this dev team which is, I'm assuming, somewhere around 140 or 140 or 150 people right now. This dev team is, again, they're all very experienced in this particular field. So I believe you combining the community friendly aspect and the communication aspect with the fact that the devs know what they're doing, you combine those things, it's going to be great. And on top of that, they've already kind of announced that they're going for more of a grassroots approach in terms of how they're going to promote the game, which, you know, obviously is definitely a different kind of approach compared to what they did the first time in terms of marketing and stuff like that. So I remember in the more recent AMA, they were talking about how they literally had, like, very recently had a meeting about the marketing and stuff like that. So I, for one, maintain my optimism. And even if, let's just say hypothetically, even if I couldn't play Splitgate 2 again, I still support a game like this, because in terms of where a lot of games, both in and out of first person shooters, right, where we were years ago, you know, and I don't want to sound like a negative Nancy, okay, but where we were years ago, we were in a much better spot in terms of what we, the gamers, were getting on a year on not necessarily just a yearly release basis, but on a game release basis. Overall, we were a lot more consistent and better years ago, and I think a big reason for that is because, number one, you know, obviously publishers over the years have become more and more involved in the development process. That's something that's certainly happened. It's nothing necessarily new, but it's become more and more concentrated. And number two is the fact that, again, you know, there's so many other things that have been taking place that have been added into games, and you know, the politics of games and all that kind of stuff have gotten worse, and the negative impact on social media. So, you know, you put all that together, it's like, you know, it's going to have an impact in your product or whatnot, and over the years, you know. So I could easily go on and on about that, and I wanted to mention something specific, but I forgot. But you know, but overall, again, even if I couldn't play the game, I would still support it, because, you know, games are not being made like this anymore. Games are not being as community friendly like this anymore. It's kind of a rarity, and I've mentioned this before. When the game was, like, sometime before or after the game launched, I made a video about this, or mentioned it in a video. You know, to me, in my eyes, right, Splitgate 2 represents the very last, very kind of like X Defiant in a way, but even better, because there's no Ubisoft, there's no publisher, it's just the developers. You know, to me, Splitgate 2 represents the last of the types of games that used to kind of be developed, you know, where art was put at the forefront, where the community was put at the forefront, as opposed to, let's just focus on how much money we can make, and, you know, forget about everything else. Everything else is secondary. So it's like, you know, when you put community first, you know, and on top of that, you've got the right chefs in the kitchen that are working on a project, you know, you really have a lot of potential. It just so happens that the game, unfortunately, even though, you know, $100+ million is a lot of money, it's not, you don't have that much wiggle room with that kind of money. You can't afford to make too many mistakes with that kind of money, and you have to, you know, put yourself in a certain position to make the most out of to make the most out of a certain situation when you don't have that kind of budget. So but again, you know, I maintain my optimism. You know, I'm rooting for them. Even if I couldn't touch this game again, I'm rooting for them, because I want, you know, games like this to succeed, because I want the message to be spread across the industry to where it's like, hey, listen to your community, and your game can make the ultimate comeback. You know what I mean? So and that's really important, you know, because it seems like games have become less and less community friendly over the years, and that's one of the things that I've mentioned, what I meant in terms of how we were better off back in the day, you know, but or at least one of the reasons. So anyway, that's pretty much all I wanted to say in this one. Just wanted to have a little bit of a conversation here with you guys, and it has been, I think, over 2 weeks or whatnot. So just thought I'd kind of keep you guys up the tab, and without, you know, obviously going into too much details in terms of what's going on with me. But all in all, everything so far is still, as far as Splitgate 2 is concerned, is is still looking good. And hopefully I'll be able to play the game again sooner rather than later. I've just been playing different kind of games that are a little bit slower, different point of view, that sort of thing. So, but overall, still excited about Splitgate 2. That has not changed, and I'm still rooting for the devs. So that being said, guys, let me know anything that you want to say down in the comment section below, and hopefully I'll see you guys sooner rather than later.